to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I thought I had the perfect marriage of 11 years until I caught my wife cheating on me with a man at the grocery store. I think maybe something from my wife's past has come back to haunt me. I think my wife is having a physical affair. There's still a chance I'm overreacting. With everything going on, it really looks like my wife's been unfaithful to me. I'm Victor, 31 years old, and my wife Julia is 30. We live in Detroit, and until now, I thought we had a great marriage. About 11 years ago, I was visiting my wife at her parents' house. Well, she was my girlfriend back then, and her best friend got in my face, asking me straight up why I hadn't put a ring on Julia's finger yet. Her best friend, Mandy, was really grilling me about it, and Julia just stood there, not saying a word, not stopping her. I got the point pretty quick. At the time I told her, "Hey, Julia, you're just going to let Mandy interrogate me like this?" Julia just laughed and said, "Maybe she has a point, Victor." I cared about Julia so much that honestly, I was happy they felt that way. It made me feel wanted, and I took it as a green light to start thinking about marriage. 2 years later, we tied the knot. Now we have 2 beautiful daughters together. Getting married was one of the happiest days of my life. I had always planned on being a good husband and a good father, and I thought I was making good on that promise. Julia had wanted a pretty big wedding with a lot of people there, and we even flew in some of our relatives from Puerto Rico. Me and Julia weren't rich, but we were good providers. Our kids have always been good kids. Julia has always been a great person. She's smart, fun, and has a sense of humor you don't always expect from someone so gorgeous. She's a good mom, too, and our daughters, who are 7 and 4 years old, love and respect her. Our oldest even acts just like her. I always tell Julia that, and she really is gorgeous. I love her pretty smile, her brown eyes, and especially her amazing body. She's the type of woman who struggles a little to put on a pair of jeans, and whether she's wearing a sexy dress or some tights, it always stands out on her slim figure. She's always loved how she looks, and it made my mom think she had an ego. And, well, my mom might be right, but I never really minded. I work in a renovation project facility, and Julia owns her own nail salon. That never surprised me, because she's always been a fashionista, though she'd disagree with me calling her that. She's always been up on the latest trends, had to have everything new, the new iPhone, new heels, name brand clothes. It would make me roll my eyes sometimes, but it was her money, so I didn't really say anything. After we became parents, though, she had to cut back a lot. Instead of keeping up with that glamour girl life, she started focusing on our daughters more. These days she's fine with last year's iPhone and cutting back on designer clothes so she can buy Disney character clothes our girls love to wear. The only time she puts on her good clothes now is for holidays or when we go on vacation. Even though that's the case, I've had to splurge less, too. But it doesn't matter, because our kids are more important, and my family is my priority. Everything seemed okay, but now I'm starting to see some problems after me and my wife ran into her old friend's ex. Our family was at the supermarket one day, picking up groceries like usual. Our oldest daughter reminded us about her Pop-Tarts, so Julia asked me to go with her to pick out the flavor she wanted. After a whole debate about which flavor to try, she finally decided on some new kind with strawberry and chocolate. We headed back to find Julia. As soon as we turned the corner, there she was, laughing and talking to some guy. I remember my daughter just kind of pushing past them and handing Julia the Pop-Tarts. Julia smiled and turned toward me, saying, "Victor, this is Trey. Remember him? He's Tasha's ex-boyfriend." At first, my mind was blank. I just stood there trying to place the name. And then I remembered, Tasha. Yeah, she was Julia's co-worker from some old job she had before she opened her own nail salon. Trey seemed friendly enough, smiling and shaking my hand. "Man, good to meet you," he said, looking genuinely happy. "Hey, nice to meet you too," I told him. They kept catching up a bit more, and it was awkward, I guess, seeing Julia grinning ear to ear, leaning in close while they talked, way more excited than I'd seen her in a while. After standing there for a minute or two, I kind of tapped Julia's arm. "Hey, we still got to get home to cook dinner, remember?" Trey laughed. "Yeah, I don't want to hold you up. It was really good seeing you guys." On the ride home, Julia was still smiling a little. She told me, "Wow, I can't believe I ran into Trey like that. I'm shocked he and Tasha even broke up." I looked over at her and asked, "When's the last time you talked to Tasha anyway?" She thought about it for a second. "Maybe 4 years ago." For years. That meant they'd definitely lost touch, so I didn't think much of it. I figured that was the last I'd hear about Trey. But over the next few weeks, I noticed Julia and Trey kept in touch. They'd talk on the phone, and I saw his name pop up on her social media here and there. Sometimes he'd even mention me, which made me feel included, so I didn't sweat it. But then the conversations started happening more often. Longer calls, late at night, sometimes after I'd already gone to bed. Super Bowl Sunday really put my radar on. That day, Julia was on the phone with Trey again. I came over to ask her if she'd bought the chips I liked. She half answered, yeah, in the pantry, still talking on the phone. A little while later, she came up to me, holding out the phone. Trey wants to talk to you, she said. I was surprised but took the phone. Hey Trey, what's up? Yo Victor, he said. You watching the Super Bowl today? Yeah, I plan to, I told him. He laughed. Who you going for? The Lions, I laughed back. He said, me too. You want to come watch it? I was thinking about catching it with some friends. That'd be cool, I replied, but we're going to have a bunch of kids over. You probably don't want to deal with all that chaos. He laughed again. Yeah, never mind. And I handed the phone back to Julia. A couple hours later, Julia came up again. Trey wants to talk to you one more time, she said. I took the phone. Yeah. Trey said, hey, man, if you can get away, there's this Super Bowl party at my friend's house. You should come hang out. Julia jumped in before I could answer. I can call my brother, see if he'll come get the kids early, and then we could go a little later. I hesitated, but she seemed excited. I finally said, all right, sure. So after her brother came and picked up the kids, me and Julia got ready and headed out. We got there right around the halftime show. While I was talking to everybody at the party, I figured out it was being thrown because someone there was a diehard Cincinnati Bengals fan. The guy who threw the party kept arguing with anyone about who would win, but he really wanted the Bengals to lose. He definitely got his wish, and when the Bengals lost, it shut him up for the rest of the night. We all had a good laugh at his expense, and then just settled in to enjoy the get-together. But it was around then that I started getting suspicious about how my wife was acting with Trey. She was all up in his face, smiling, laughing, leaning closer to him, and I felt completely left out of the conversation. At first, I thought maybe it was just me being awkward and not inserting myself enough, so I tried to jump in. At one point, I asked Trey straight up, hey, so what happened between you and Tasha? You guys were together a while, right? He just shrugged and said, oh, me and Tasha? That was casual, nothing serious, man. Julia laughed a little. Really? I'm surprised. Tasha really liked you, Trey. Trey just grinned and shook his head like it was nothing. After a while, I told them, I'm gonna go grab another Smirnoff, and headed out to the porch where the cooler was. Out there, I mingled with a couple people, just trying to relax. When I went back inside, I started looking around for Julia and saw them tucked away in a corner, talking again. I was about to walk over to them, but something about the way Trey was standing so close to her set off a weird vibe. He looked kind of predatory, leaning in too close. I paused, out of sight, and watched. He reached out and took my wife's hand, and Julia was giggling all shy, like a teenager. After that, she walked off toward the kitchen, and Trey was practically glued to her, staring right at her, but while he followed. All I could think was, what the hell is going on? I moved a little closer to see better. Standing by the sink, Julia was talking to another girl, her back turned to Trey. The girl noticed Trey eyeing my wife's backside and gave Julia a look. I think she told her about it. Julia turned, caught Trey's eyes on her butt, and smiled back at him. Then she just went right back to chatting with the girl, like she was in on it. Normally, I'd be the first to praise how my wife looks, but now I felt paranoid. Julia would talk with the girl, then glance back at Trey and smile, and he'd sneak more looks at her yoga pants. She wouldn't budge, almost like she was teasing him, like she knew exactly what he wanted. Even if they tried to play it off, you could see it if you were paying attention, the looks, the smiles, the tension. All I could think was, God, I hope I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing. Eventually, the other girl said something to Julia, and they walked back into the living room. Julia spotted me standing there and asked, what were the guys talking about on the porch? I told her, nothing much. Hey, I'm ready to head out. She frowned a bit. Already? I kind of wanted to stay a little longer. I reminded her, your brother's with the kids, remember? He's waiting on us, so he can leave. She sighed, but didn't argue too much. After we said goodbye to Trey and everyone else, we headed back home since both of us had work the next day. While I was driving, I couldn't hold it in. Julia, I said, I gotta tell you, it looked like Trey was trying to hit on you back there. She just laughed like I was crazy. Victor, you're seeing things, she told me, shaking her head. You're wrong. I left it alone for the moment, but after what I saw at that party, I knew I had to start paying more attention. Trey was definitely checking out her, but, no doubt in my mind, the more I paid attention, the more suspicious I got. Julia always seemed to have her phone on her, and she'd bring up Trey in random conversations with me and with her best friend Mandy. Then she started practically handcuffing that phone to her hand, talking all the way into the early morning hours. One night, I finally had enough. I asked her straight up, Julia, are you still talking to Trey? She shot me a look, kind of annoyed. Yeah, she answered, and then after about 5 minutes, she hung up. After that, I got tired of her staying up so late on the phone. Can you talk to him during the day? I asked her. She sighed. I can't. Victor, I talked to Mandy during the day. I looked at her and told her, it's really inappropriate, Julia, to be talking to Trey so late at night. She just laughed and waved me off. Victor, you're being paranoid. Seriously, every time I tried to say something, she'd dismiss it, tell me I was worried about nothing. But all my questions must have gotten to her, because after that, she stopped bringing Trey up altogether. I think she thought that would keep me from getting upset, but it didn't. Then 2 days ago, things really hit the fan. It was my wife's day off, and she told me she was going over to Mandy's house to do Mandy's mom's nails. I already knew about this plan for a couple of days, so I didn't think anything of it. Later that night, my youngest daughter came up to me and asked if we could have pizza. I told her, Mom's cooking dinner tonight. She made a big fuss about it, whining and sulking. Honestly, I was in the mood for pizza too, so I decided, fine, I'd call Julia and tell her she didn't need to cook. I dialed her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. That's weird, I thought. I tried again, same thing. Straight to voicemail. I started asking myself, why the hell is her phone off? She never turns her phone off. I let half an hour go by, tried calling again, and still, straight to voicemail. That's when I decided to call Mandy. When Mandy picked up, I tried to sound casual. Hey, is Julia still there? Mandy sounded confused. No, she left. My heart started pounding. Left? I thought she was going to do your mom's nails tonight. She was, Mandy said, but then she got a phone call and just left. Who called her? I asked, trying to stay calm. I don't know. Mandy told me. But I was mad, Victor. She told me to tell my mom to just come by the nail salon tomorrow. That threw me. Mandy was basically like a sister to Julia. So for Julia to ditch her like that was messed up. After hanging up with Mandy, I called around, but nobody had heard from Julia. That only leaves Trey, I thought, and the rage just boiled over. I remembered Trey had told us the street he lived on during the Super Bowl party, but not the exact address. If Julia was with him, I knew what was happening. I grabbed my keys, ready to walk out the door. Then I remembered my kids were still in their room, playing. I couldn't just leave them. I grabbed my phone and called my mom to see if she could come over to babysit for a while, but she didn't answer. Shit. My best friend, Marcus, was my last option. I dialed him up. When he picked up, I asked, Yo, Marcus, what you doing right now? He said, Hey, man, my girl's cooking dinner. I told Marcus, I was about to ask you for a favor. He asked, What's up, man? What do you need? I hesitated. Never mind. It's too big of a favor. Nah, Victor, come on. Just tell me, he insisted. I let out a breath. I think my wife is cheating on me. He went dead silent. Like that was the last thing he expected to come out of my mouth. Finally, he asked, Bro, you serious? Yeah. I told him and laid out everything that had been going on. Marcus sighed. Damn, man. Look, I can't come over to your place and watch the kids, but you can bring them here. That pissed me off, because Marcus lived all the way on the other side of town. But what choice did I have? I got the kids ready to go, loaded them up, and it took about 30 minutes to drive over there. When I got to Marcus's place, he was waiting at the door. Do you even know where Trey lives? He asked me. I know the street, I said. He looked at me like I was nuts. Vic, that's a long street. You really about to just drive up and down looking for them? Yeah, I told him, dead serious. He put a hand on my shoulder. Bro, don't take your own car. If you're wrong and they see you, your wife's gonna call you a crazy husband. At least they won't recognize my car right off. He handed me the keys. Just don't do anything crazy in my car, man. I nodded. You want me to come with you? Marcus asked. No. I told him, it's already messed up enough. You're involved as it is. He sighed, took the kids inside, and I headed out. I hoped, I prayed, I was wrong, but my gut was twisting in a way I couldn't ignore. After a long drive, I finally turned down Trey Street. It was a terrible neighborhood, but I couldn't care less at this point. All the shady, suspicious crap Julia had been pulling had led me here. As I slowed down, I scanned the street for her silver Kia. Part of me was hoping, begging, that I wouldn't find it. But I did. Not only did I see her car, I saw her. Julia, in a pink sweatsuit, standing next to Trey, who was wearing nothing but a white beater, some shorts, and flip-flops. It looked like she was getting ready to leave. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Trey was practically half naked and standing all close to her again. Driving past, I completely lost it in the car, cursing under my breath. He's screwing her. I know he's screwing her. There was no other explanation. This was exactly what it looked like. And I bet magically her phone works now. Not only had I caught her hugged up with this clown, now I had to race to try and beat her back home. When I got there, I was surprised. Me and the kids actually beat her home with time to spare. I put the kids to bed, then went into the living room and decided to wait. Almost 40 minutes later, she came through the front door. She looked unhappy to even be coming back here. She barely glanced at me, walked right past like I was a ghost, and headed straight for the bedroom without saying a word. Her not saying anything really blew my mind. I walked straight into our bedroom after her, still trying to wrap my head around everything. "Why was your phone turned off, Julia?" I asked. She barely looked up at me. "I never turned it off," she said, sounding annoyed. "My phone died. I had to charge it up." I shook my head. "Where were you, Julia?" She sighed. "I already told you. I was over at Mandy's house." I stared at her. "Mandy said you left." She rolled her eyes, like she was irritated. "That don't mean I wasn't there," she snapped, brushing me off. It blew my mind how easily she just shrugged off my questions. "Julia," I asked her, my voice tight, "did you leave Mandy's to go see Trey?" She hesitated for a second, just a second, before she finally said, "Yeah." I swallowed hard. "Did you sleep with him?" She didn't say anything, just sat there, looking at the floor. "Julia, answer me," I pushed. She finally looked up, cold. "It doesn't matter," she said. "I'm tired of you having a problem with Trey. I'm done with this conversation. I'm tired." Then she changed the subject, like nothing even happened. "Did the kids eat?" "Yeah," I told her. "We went out to eat." She didn't even react to that. Didn't ask what we had. Didn't ask if the kids were okay. She just walked straight back into the living room, turned on the TV, and pulled out her phone. After that night, it was like she wasn't even the same wife anymore. She barely talked to me, always glued to her phone in the dining room, tapping away at messages, never telling me who she was talking to. The way she looked at me, it was like she wanted to get away from me, but couldn't. It was total BS. She was acting like I did something to her, when all I've ever done was try to cater to her, love her, support her. And come on, whose battery dies in the middle of the day? I feel like I'm going crazy, trying to figure out if my gut is right. Her behavior is screaming red flags. I hope I'm overreacting, but the signs are all there, especially after the Super Bowl party. They had been talking all day at that party. Trey had been staring at her, but every chance he got, and she let him do it. And honestly, my wife's but where if she walked past you, you'd wait a few seconds, then turn and look at it. Eventually Julia had to notice that Trey was checking her out. Even other people probably saw it, but she never called him out on it, never told him to knock it off. When I told her, "Julia, he's staring at you," she just dismissed it, rolled her eyes at me like I was making things up. It got so bad that I ended up trying to track her down last week because I didn't trust what she was telling me. She said she was going over to Mandy's house to do Mandy's mom's nails. That was fine, except she bailed on Mandy after Trey called her. When I tried to call Julia, her phone went straight to voicemail. My stomach dropped. I knew where she probably was. I called up Marcus again and asked him, "Bro, can I borrow your car? I think she's with Trey." He sighed and told me, "Yeah, man, come get it." So I drove down Trey Street. My heart was pounding the whole time. And then I saw them. Julia was there, wearing that pink sweatsuit, and Trey was practically half naked, just a white beater, shorts, and some flip-flops, looking like he'd just rolled out of bed. On the drive back to Marcus's, he asked me, "So, what did you see, man?" I told him everything, how Trey looked, how Julia acted, how close they were. Marcus just shook his head. "Victor, I'm not gonna lie, man, it sounds like he's hitting that." I nodded. "Yeah, I think so too. I mean, come on, if I was dressed like that and a woman came over, Julia would be telling me to put on some damn clothes." Trey looked like he just woke up, bro. Marcus rubbed his chin. "What you gonna do about it?" "I don't even know, man." I told him honestly. "I really don't." After that, I thanked Marcus for watching my kids, and somehow I managed to get home with almost 40 minutes to spare before Julia showed up. When she finally came back, she looked guilty, no other way to say it. I asked her straight up, "Where were you?" She was super vague, wouldn't give me a straight answer, just shrugged and said out. I kept pushing out where. She wouldn't say, just acted annoyed, and I eventually had to drop it. I hadn't caught them in the act, and that burned me up inside. Folks here warned me it was going to get worse, and they were right. Now she looks at me like I'm her prison guard. She doesn't really want to talk to me, barely even interacts with the kids, treats them like a chore. She just sits in our little dining room, scrolling and texting all day, zoning out from the family. Half the time, I don't even know what to say to her anymore. What made it worse was my work schedule. Between the job, taking care of the kids, and helping my mom, there was no way for me to really stop Julia from sneaking around if she wanted to. She knew my schedule by heart, and I'm sure Trey did too by now. Her own hours were more flexible because she ran her own nail salon, so she could move around any way she wanted. Whenever I'd get home, she wouldn't be there, especially on the days she didn't have to pick up the kids from school. And when she did come back, she'd be vague, giving me one-word answers about where she'd been. It really messed with my mind, made me feel like I was losing it. I'd be sitting with my mom, trying to focus on helping her, and all I could think about was my wife somewhere else, maybe riding some dude's meat. It's haunted me ever since she left Trey's house that night. Honestly, if it wasn't for this community, I don't know how I would have made it. I would have been totally blindsided. You all told me to calm down and start monitoring them for truth. I had to man up, no matter how crazy it felt, and once I did, I finally got the truth. Today I can say for sure, Trey was sleeping with my wife. My plan worked out exactly how I needed it to. That weekend after work, I went out and bought a VAR, a little voice-activated recorder. First, I tested it out by taking the kids to McDonald's. It picked up everything, even the kids talking about their happy meals. That gave me confidence it would catch something if Trey was ever with her in the car, even if they were trying to keep it low-key. It felt insane to be planting a recorder in my own wife's car, but this was my reality now. I couldn't believe this was my life. One of the best pieces of advice I'd gotten was to act like I wasn't concerned about Trey at all. That was a damn lie, but I had to do it. Pretending everything was good made Julia relax her guard a little. It was hard as hell. Every time I looked at her, my blood boiled, but I forced myself to keep thinking. Just get the truth. When I told Marcus about what I was doing, he laughed. "You cold, bro," he told me. Genius move, though. A few days later, I snuck out and got the VR back out of her car. My hands were shaking when I turned it on. At first it was nothing, just random music and road noise, but then I heard her voice. Julia, laughing and talking with Trey. He was definitely flirting, calling her sexy, and she was giggling right along with it. I couldn't quite make out everything she said, but she wasn't stopping him, that's for damn sure. Then I heard Trey say, "Hey, stop somewhere real quick," and things went quiet for a minute. Suddenly, it sounded like a bunch of dudes piled in the car, and they drove off. It got harder to follow because everyone was talking at once. Somewhere through all that nonsense, I caught Trey saying he wanted to come over. I couldn't hear her answer fully, but I definitely heard Julia say she had to leave early, so come over. After that, the recording was pretty much useless. They were all just talking and clowning around. One dude even called Trey thirsty, which made me want to break something. I tried to figure out who Julia meant about leaving early. At first I thought maybe Mandy, but that didn't make sense. Mandy was practically her sister, and I doubted she'd involve Mandy in this. She definitely wasn't talking about her mom. So the only person left who made sense was the girl who worked with Julia at the salon, maybe even the teenage girl they were training. That was all I had to go on. I decided to call Marcus again. "Yo, Marcus," I said, "you think I could swap cars with you for the day?" "Yeah, bro," he said. "What's up?" I told him what I'd heard on the recording. Marcus was shocked. "Man," he said, "she a high-price hoe for real. I hope you catch her this time." He already knew how I moved, so he understood I needed his ride again. Julia knew my schedule down to the minute, so I had to play it smart. Today, I had to go help my mom's next-door neighbors with her yard. I couldn't cancel on her because I promised, but I told Julia I'd only stay a little while since I was tired from work. My mom wasn't happy at all when I left early, and she let me know. But her next-door neighbor stepped up and told me not to worry. He could handle the rest of the yard. So around 9 o'clock, I pulled up to my wife's shop right as it was closing. It's in a strip mall, so it was easy to blend in with the other cars there, especially since I was driving Marcus's car. When I pulled in, my heart sank. Trey's car was right there. I felt my stomach twist up because that meant I was right. I stayed low, watching through the tinted window, and saw that nobody was left inside except Julia, Trey, and one of the other workers, sure. Julia was dressed up, trying to look good. I could tell that right away. And Trey? He was all over her, arms wrapped around her while they were talking like they hadn't a care in the world. About 20 minutes in, they started really getting into it. Trey was kissing on Julia's neck, grabbing her, but basically pinning her up against the wall. Cher was just standing there, acting like she didn't see a damn thing. After about 5 minutes of that mess, Cher must have said something about leaving because I saw her grab her stuff. She kind of waved and smiled at them, and they waved back like it was nothing. Then Julia took Trey's hand, and they started walking to the back, headed toward the basement. I'd been in that basement when Julia first opened the shop, so I knew it was basically a storage area, nothing else back there. Julia always talked about how she wanted to get a bigger place with an office, because this spot wasn't high-end enough for her. But she definitely knew how to market things. If nothing else, she was good at that. My hands were shaking with rage. After everything I've done for her, I couldn't believe she'd do me like this. And Trey, I knew that dude was a snake from day one. I grabbed my VAR and got out of the car, heading toward the salon. I waited until Cher came out with her stuff, then stepped in front of her. When she saw me, she froze like she'd seen a ghost. "Don't lock the doors," I told her. "I know everything." Her eyes went wide. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Cher," I snapped. I watched them the whole damn time. She looked uncomfortable. "Don't blame me that your wife is screwing another man." "Messy as hell," I shot back. "Get out of my way." She tried to stand her ground. You ain't gonna catch them anyway, she said. That door's locked. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Why would they lock the door if you knew what was going on, sure? She stammered. They didn't want nobody coming down. I pushed past her, pulling out my phone and trying to call Julia. Of course she didn't answer. I walked straight to the basement door, banged on it 3 hard times. Open this damn door, I shouted. Nothing. I banged again louder. Julia, come up here right now. Nothing. I turned back to Shur, breathing hard. How long you been knowing about this, huh? Shur shifted her bag on her shoulder, avoiding my eyes. About a month, she finally said. My heart sank. Shur sighed and added, your wife started cheating with him. Shur looked nervous as hell, shifting from foot to foot. Finally, she spoke up. Look, she said, it happened recently. He came in on her break, and after a while they went down in the basement. I clenched my teeth, trying to stay calm. You mean she just started messing with him? Shur nodded. Yeah, she said the next day they talked about what happened. I shook my head. Did you know that's Tasha's ex-boyfriend? Shur shrugged. Your wife told me that. My chest felt tight. We have kids, Shur. Kids. You know that, right? She looked away. I don't have nothing to do with that. Yeah, fine, I said coldly. But I'm gonna use everything you just told me in court. That got her attention. What you mean court? I pulled the VAR out of my pocket and showed it to her. Exactly what I said. You can go home now. Shur looked like she was about to say something, then just shook her head and left. I got back in Marcus's car, hands still shaking. When I pulled up to his place, Marcus was already outside, waiting. He took one look at my face and knew. Bro, he asked. Man, I sighed. It was exactly what I thought. He had his hands all over her, kissing her, grabbing her, and then they went down in the basement. Marcus let out a low whistle. Damn, his girl came outside, too, and hugged me. I'm so sorry, Victor, she said. Yeah, Marcus added, you did what you had to do, man. While we were talking, my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw Mandy's name. Perfect, I thought. Just perfect. I answered. Yeah. Mandy didn't even say hello. Victor, she told me everything. I scoffed. Good. Then you know she's foul. She wants to talk to you tomorrow, Mandy said. No. Put her on the phone now, I demanded. She's not talking to you right now, Mandy replied. You gonna blow up on her? You're damn right I'm gonna blow up. I snapped. Put her on. If you come over here, I'll call the police, Mandy threatened. Just wait until tomorrow. I'm making her call you, but you need to calm down. Yeah, whatever, I said and hung up. I was coming back after picking up the kids from Marcus's place, and on the drive home, I felt this huge wave of emotion crash over me. My anxiety was through the roof. I sat there thinking, how the hell did this happen? I tried to do everything right. Everything. I married her, took care of her, took care of the kids, put my family first, and she still did this. It felt like my whole world was coming apart. And it wasn't even some one-time mistake. She'd been with this dude over and over again. Now, everything in my life was going to have to change. I was already dreading tomorrow, but I knew one thing. If she tried to feed me a bunch of BS, I was going to file for divorce. My mind was spinning. I honestly thought maybe it was a bad idea to leave Marcus's house and come home. At least there, I had someone to talk to. Now I just felt alone. That's why I had to post here. Everybody wanted to know what was really going on with my wife. And since this whole mess started, ever since me and Julia ran into Trey, her affair partner, at that damn grocery store, everything went south. It's so hard to forgive, especially after I practically had to chase this woman across the city. Now that I had multiple confessions on my VAR, there was nothing anybody could tell me to change my mind about what's been happening since the beginning of this year. Thanks to this community, I was able to stand up and confront this, even if I stumbled a bit at first. I'm super embarrassed about how this whole thing ended up after I caught Trey and Julia kissing after hours in her damn nail salon. I remember after that night, Mandy called me. Victor, she said, her voice all low and dramatic. Julia wants to explain everything tomorrow. I told her fine. Tomorrow then. But the next day came, nothing. She never called. Honestly, that was fine with me, because I had bigger priorities. I was in the middle of calling everybody to let them know what she had done, family, close friends. Everybody needed to know I wasn't the one breaking this family. She was. I even called a lawyer, one I found recommended online. And while he was leaving the office, he told me to call back later so he could get more details. After that, I took the kids over to my mom's house because she demanded they stay with her for the weekend. She was heated. This is on you, my mom said, raising her voice so loud the neighbors probably heard. You married that girl, and I told you she was too fast. I tried to defend myself. Mom, nobody plans for this to happen. She cut me off. I don't trust you with the babies right now, Victor. My aunt, who was coming in from the kitchen, stopped and looked shocked. What's going on? My mom turned to her and basically told the whole story, while my aunt threw up her hands and sat down on the couch. My mom even muted the TV just to blow down on me some more. As harsh as she was, I was actually relieved she was taking the kids. My head was spinning, and I needed space. Later, Marcus called me. Bro, he asked, you hear from Julia yet? Nope, I told him. She's probably somewhere sucking some tool. He sighed. She might not even call, bro. Good, I snapped. I'm ready to move on anyway. Saturday came. I was trying to clean up the house, zoning out, just going through the motions. Then I heard keys in the door. What the hell? I hadn't even heard her car. My wife came in, and Mandy was with her. I just stared. Julia didn't look anything like herself. She had on a gray Nike sweatsuit, no makeup, and her hair was tied up with a cheap rubber band. She looked, I don't even know, small. Guilty. The shame on her face said it all. Maybe she was just sorry she got caught. I kept thinking about how she used to be so put together, always looking breathtaking. But maybe that was just a privilege for Trey now. I remembered how at that Super Bowl party, he couldn't keep his eyes off her. My wife had what you'd call a real booty, and she knew it, the way she wore those yoga pants. I caught him staring at it that day, and honestly, I think that was the moment that kicked off all this hell. They got sloppy, and that's how I caught them. After she walked in, Mandy looked at me and said, Victor, just let her speak, okay? I crossed my arms. Fine. Say what you gotta say. Mandy patted Julia on the shoulder, then went out on the porch, leaving us alone. I took a breath. I'm surprised you even came here, I told my wife. Surprised you even bothered to talk to me. Julia looked down, then back up, her eyes rimmed red. I felt like I needed to, she said quietly. After you saw me and Trey at the salon, I was scared to come back home. She looked around like she was scanning for something, then asked, where are the kids? I folded my arms. They're with my mom. She looked down, like that wasn't what she wanted to hear, and let out this annoyed breath. I'm mad, she said quietly. Mad that you told Cher to tell you everything about Trey. I laughed, short and bitter. I didn't tell her anything. After Cher got caught helping you sneak around, she ratted you out to save her own skin. Julia rubbed her temple, clearly frustrated. We got into a huge argument, Victor. Cher hasn't even come back to work since. I stared her dead in the eye. So what? You got caught cheating. I don't give a damn about Cher having a big mouth. She threw up her hands. You're right, she snapped, then sighed, her shoulders slumping. You're right. I don't want to fight. I'm sorry, okay? I am sorry. I didn't want you to find out about me and Trey. My jaw tightened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Saying sorry is supposed to make it okay. I fired back. You betrayed me, Julia. You paraded this clown around me, pretending he was just a friend, and then you throw our whole relationship in the trash. How could you do that? She wiped her face with her sleeve, voice shaking. I'm sorry. I let my fantasies about Trey get out of hand. Fantasies? I spat. What? You mean when you were sneaking around while I was busting my butt for this family? She nodded, voice low. Back when Tasha was dating him, she would always tell me how great he was, how handsome he was. She even showed me their sexting while we were at work. They would talk about all the things they did, and it excited me. The next day, we'd laugh about it, and my hands clenched into fists. So you basically already had a crush on this clown from the jump? She nodded. When Trey came to pick Tasha up from work, I thought he was really handsome. And after hearing so much about him, I knew I liked him. I bit the inside of my cheek, swallowing hard. Did he say anything to you back then? He complimented me a couple times, she admitted, looking away. That was it. I shook my head. That day at the supermarket, I knew something was off. I don't remember you giving him your phone number. He asked for it, she blurted. He started texting me. At first it was friendly, then it turned into flirting, then sexting. My head felt like it was going to explode. And you just went along with it, huh? Her voice went small. Yes. I pressed her harder. When you were supposed to be doing Mandy's mom's nails, was that really the day you went over to Trey's house? On his street. I made sure to say the street name, just so she knew I knew. Her eyes went wide. How did you know that? I went looking for you that night, Julia, I said, voice cold. I saw you out there with him. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. Yes, she finally said. I went right for the kill. Did you screw him? She opened her mouth, then closed it, looking like she wanted to shrink into the floor. All she could say was, I'm sorry. I nearly laughed, but it came out broken. So that's a yes, I said. Julia shook her head miserably. When he called, he said everybody was hanging out and convinced me to ghost Mandy and go there. But when I got there, he told me he just wanted to be alone with me. I waited for people to come, but nobody else came. So why didn't you leave? I demanded. She bit her lip, eyes wet. Because I knew what he wanted. And, she paused, I wanted it too. I shook my head, disgusted. Unbelievable. He got all touchy with me, she went on, and started kissing me, and I didn't stop him. I could feel my pulse banging in my head. "You're stupid, Julia," I growled. "You threw away our marriage." She flinched, tears spilling. "I'm sorry," I snapped. "I could never trust you again." She lowered her gaze and said, in the smallest voice I'd ever heard from her, "I'm not asking you to." My eyes narrowed. What the hell does that mean? She drew in a shaky breath, lifted her head, and said it straight. "I want to pursue a relationship with Trey." I just stared at her, barely believing what I was hearing. "You're crazy," I told her flat out. She looked straight back at me and didn't even flinch. "I really want to, Victor," she said. "I always fantasized about Trey. I didn't think it would ever matter until we ran into him that day." I shook my head, disgusted. "So because he flirted with you, you just threw everything away?" She sighed. "When he told me that him and Tasha weren't serious, it actually made me happy. Especially after he started flirting with me again." I scoffed. "Happy?" She nodded. "I secretly hoped something would happen, and it did. That night, when I went to his house, and he slept with me." She trailed off, then shrugged like she was ashamed. I wanted to feel bad about it, but I didn't. I clenched my fists. "Unbelievable." She went on. "After that, he'd call me to hang out. At first it just happened spontaneously, then we planned it." I cut in, voice tight. "You should have talked to me before you went sneaking around behind my back with Trey." She lowered her head. "I know. You didn't deserve it. But this was the better way to go about it." I stared at her, stunned. "You're crazy. You really want to leave your family for this clown?" She looked me dead in the face. "It's a feeling I've always had about him. I wish I pursued it before marrying you." That one stung worse than anything. I swallowed hard. "So what? You're telling me you liked him more than you liked me?" She nodded, almost apologetic. "Yes. And Trey wants a relationship with me, too." I was reeling. "Are you sleeping with his friends too?" I had to ask. I told her, "Because I know you've been driving them around." She shot me a disgusted look. "Victor, no? That's crazy." I shook my head. "He had you picking them up like you were some kind of free Uber." She just rolled her eyes, like it was no big deal. "It just happened, okay?" "Whatever," I spat. She sighed again. "Victor, I want out of this marriage. I don't want to be married to you while I'm thinking about someone else." I bit my lip hard, trying not to explode. "You couldn't date Trey back then because he was already with Tasha, and you were with me. You remember that?" She nodded slowly. I pressed on. "What would Tasha think about you running off with him now?" My wife just shrugged. "They were just casually dating at the time. She wouldn't care now." I stared at her in disbelief. "Yeah, maybe. But Tasha would still think less of you as a friend. And she'd be right." Julia sighed. "I don't want to argue. I just want to end this on good terms." I looked away, biting down the rage, while Mandy popped her head back in through the doorway. Julia nodded at her, and then they both left, driving off to God knows where. As much as it burned, she was right about one thing. I would hate being married to a woman who'd rather be with another guy. Maybe she was delusional, but let her find out the hard way. After that, living in the house by myself was a different kind of pain. I was pissed, embarrassed, all of it. Was this what relationships were now? So easy to throw away. I really thought after being married for 9 years that we wouldn't have to worry about something like this. When Monday came around, I called off work and met with a lawyer to file for divorce. Somebody told me I could maybe get alimony from her nail salon, and the lawyer said if the kids wanted to stay with me, that was possible too. My mom stepped up big time with the kids, but of course, she spoiled them while they were at her house, and told them their mom was leaving the family to live somewhere else. When my oldest asked me about it, all I could do was shake my head thanks to my mom. I have had to tell the kids the truth myself. They didn't take it well, even though my mom kind of broke it to them first, which in the end worked in my favor. After I picked them up from her place, I decided to roll past Trey's house. I pointed it out to them, parked for a second. "That's where your mom wants to live," I told them. My oldest looked at the place, run down, rickety porch, some guys hanging around out front. "You want to live there with her?" I asked them straight. They both looked disgusted. My oldest shook her head. "Not for $1,000,000, Dad," she said. That told me everything I needed. Today on my lunch break I called my wife. I let it ring. Then when she picked up, I told her flat out, I already filed for divorce. She went quiet a moment, then said, "Okay." Then she said she wanted to come over and talk to the kids. I told her, my mom is picking them up from school today because I got things to do. She came back with, "I really want to talk to them, Victor." I sighed. "Look, when I get home tonight, you can come over. I'll have my mom bring them back." She paused, then asked, "Can I just pick them up instead?" I shot that down. "If you want to see the kids so bad, go over to my mom's house and pick them up yourself. But I'm telling you right now, it wouldn't be the smartest thing you ever did." She blew up a little. "You're always hiding behind your mom." I snapped right back. "If you want to see the kids, go over there. That is, if you're bold enough." I could hear her let out this frustrated sigh. Then she just hung up. She knew exactly how petty my mom can be. Since then, I haven't heard from her. I sent her one last text, simple and to the point. All we need to talk about from here is the divorce and sometimes the kids. That's all I needed to say. Right now, my head is on my daughters and their lives. Just because their mom gave up on them doesn't mean they're alone. I know for a fact Trey isn't about to give up his player life. I hope while she's busy taking a facial from him, she thinks about that. That's not my problem anymore. Like I said, I'll let her worry about what might happen. I really want to thank everybody here for the amazing support. I was definitely scared to go down this road, but y'all made me braver. I've heard stories about other people catching their spouses in lies like I did. Even worse, some catching them in the act. That would have killed me. I'm definitely coming back from this. One day, my wife was very flawed, and she showed through being extremely selfish how she could break all her own standards for him, but then force me to live by hers. It's a question I keep hearing from other good men lately, and it feels unfair. This is my last update, and I want to thank you guys one more time. A few months after I filed, the divorce was finalized. The court gave me primary custody of the girls, which was honestly a relief. Julia tried to argue for split custody at first, but between the VAR recordings, witness statements, and her shady living situation, the judge saw right through her. She was granted visitation every other weekend, supervised by my mom, which was exactly what I wanted. Life wasn't easy at first. I had to get used to handling everything on my own, the school pickups, the housework, the girls' tears about their mom. But I stayed focused. I got therapy for myself and the kids. I leaned on my family and Marcus, who never let me spiral. Slowly, things began to settle. Work got better because I wasn't constantly worrying about what my wife was doing behind my back. I took on a few side projects and started saving for a small family vacation with the girls. Maybe Disney next year if everything works out. As for Julia, I heard from a couple people that Trey didn't stick around. After a few months of living in his busted-up house, he apparently moved on to another woman, one younger, with no kids, no baggage. When Julia realized he wasn't going to help her pay bills or raise a family, he told her she was too much drama and kicked her out. Last I heard, Julia was crashing on Mandy's couch, trying to figure out her next move. She still sees the girls sometimes, but it's awkward for everyone. She tries to pretend she's okay, but you can see in her face that she knows she threw everything away for a man who never planned on keeping her. I won't lie, part of me still hurts. I miss the woman I thought I married. But at the same time, there's peace in knowing I gave her every chance to do right, and she chose her own path. I wake up every day with my daughters under my roof, and I know they're safe, loved, and secure. That's what matters. Some people just belong to the streets, and no amount of love can change that. I finally understand it now, and I'm moving forward, one day at a time. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.